No one who lived on the Easton Ranch would ever forget the morning thunder broke loose. It began just before sunrise, the sky still bruised and sleepy, the first calls of crows echoing over the rolling Montana hills. Most folks were still clutching coffee mugs, yawning off the last traces of sleep, when a sudden ferocious cry shattered the silence. An inhuman scream, raw and wild. Thunder's massive black form tore across the corral, his mane whipping like storm clouds, hooves pounding up divots of dirt. He kicked at the gate with savage power, eyes rolling, snorting clouds of breath into the chilly air. The ranch hands scattered, some ducking behind fence posts, others shouting orders no one could hear above the chaos. The morning that was supposed to be quiet, just another day, exploded into panic. Harper pressed herself against the side of the barn, heart hammering. She was just 12, tall for her age but always overlooked, her freckles bright against her pale skin. She watched with wide eyes, hands clenched tight on the barn's rough wood. Thunder was beautiful, terrifying, his coat glistening with sweat, muscles flexing under the early sun. He wasn't just running, he was fighting something invisible, something only he could see. "Watch out!" someone yelled. Then a sickening thud as Thunder's hind legs connected with the gate. The heavy steel gave way, slamming open, and Thunder burst through like a force of nature. Two ranch hands tried to cut him off, ropes swinging, boots skidding in the mud. But Thunder reared, wild and impossible, and one man, Jake, the youngest of the crew, was sent sprawling, clutching his side, face pale. The other horses, startled, pressed against the far fence, eyes wide with panic. The dogs barked and howled. In the confusion, a feeding cart tipped over, spilling hay and oats everywhere, sending the chickens into a wild flurry. The ranch manager, Mr. Donnelly, stormed onto the scene, cursing under his breath. He was a big man, built like a storm cellar, gray mustache twitching with rage. "That's it!" he shouted, voice booming over the chaos. "Enough! That animal's out of control! He's dangerous! He's done!" A cold hush swept over the hands. Everyone knew what that meant. When Donnelly said an animal was done, there was no coming back. Harper's breath caught in her throat. She stared at Thunder, who was trembling now, sides heaving, blood at his flank where he'd scraped the gate. But even with all that fury, all that violence, Harper's gaze locked onto his eyes. She waited, silent, almost afraid to blink. For a split second, in the depths of Thunder's wild, glassy stare, she didn't see rage. She saw something else, a flicker of terror, raw, sharp, desperate. Not the look of a killer, but of someone cornered, out of options. Thunder looked back at her, just for a heartbeat, as if asking for something. Harper shivered. The others just saw a wild animal, but Harper saw a soul screaming for help. The crew scrambled to corral Thunder. He fought every step, sides lathered in sweat, nostrils flaring. Mr. Donnelly barked orders, telling them to get more rope, to build the fences higher. If he breaks out again, that's it. He's got until Friday. If he isn't calm by then, he's out, permanently. No one argued. Jake limped off, holding his ribs, cursing under his breath. The others muttered about that crazy horse and a menace should have been gone months ago. Some of the men glared at Harper, as if the mess was her fault, just for being there, just for watching. Harper lingered in the shadows, silent, unseen. Her mother would be furious if she knew Harper was near the corral, especially after an accident. But Harper couldn't pull herself away. She watched Thunder, now penned in a smaller enclosure, pacing like a caged tiger. She noticed how his ears twitched at every sudden movement, how his eyes darted, how he pressed himself against the far corner, trembling. A storm was coming. Not the kind you saw in the sky, but the kind that twisted people up inside. Later, when the chaos calmed and most folks had gone back to chores, Harper crept closer to the fence. She crouched low, hiding behind a hay bale, her breath ghosting in the cool air. She watched Thunder's chest rise and fall, fast and shallow. She whispered, soft so no one else could hear, "It's okay. I see you. I know you're scared. I'd be scared too." Thunder flicked an ear toward her, but didn't move away. Harper waited, hardly daring to breathe. The fear in Thunder's eyes haunted her. She'd felt that fear before, late at night when she missed her dad, or in school when she had no one to sit with. She understood being alone, being misunderstood. Just then, the barn door slammed. Luke, Harper's older brother, stalked over, boots crunching in the gravel. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered, voice low, glancing over his shoulder to make sure no one saw them. "Mom'll freak if she finds out." Harper nodded, still staring at Thunder. "He's not mean, Luke. He's scared." Luke snorted. "He broke Jake's ribs. That horse, he's bad news. Donnelly's right." "No," Harper said, voice barely above a whisper. "He's just lost. Like—" She stopped, biting her lip. "Like what?" Luke snapped, annoyed. Harper shook her head. "Never mind." Luke sighed. "Just stay away, okay? Don't get any ideas." He ruffled her hair. Rough, but not unkind. Then he walked away, leaving Harper alone with her thoughts and the horse no one wanted to understand. As the sun climbed higher, the ranch slipped back into routine, but a chill lingered in the air. Harper watched as Thunder curled his neck, eyes heavy, flanks still shivering. She knew something had changed that morning. Not just for Thunder, but for herself. She felt a strange resolve grow inside her. She wasn't sure what she could do, but she knew she couldn't turn away. Some storms you didn't run from. Some you had to walk right through. Night on the eastern ranch always brought a hush over the hills. Owls calling, a soft wind rustling through cottonwoods, distant coyotes singing their mournful tunes. But that night, Harper couldn't sleep. Thunder's eyes, full of wild panic, haunted her. The words of Mr. Donnelly echoed in her mind. "If he isn't calm by Friday, he's out. Permanently." Harper stared at the ceiling, heart thudding. Something deep inside told her she couldn't let that happen. Moonlight spilled silver across her bedroom floor. The clock ticked past midnight when Harper slipped out of bed, pulling on a faded hoodie and her mud-caked boots. She tiptoed through the quiet house, careful not to wake her mom or Luke. The air outside was crisp and cold as she jogged down the path to the barn, flashlight bobbing in her hand, breath fogging in the darkness. She wasn't the only one awake. As she rounded the hayshed, voices cut through the night. Rough, angry, laced with bitterness, she ducked behind a wheelbarrow and peered into the gloom. 3 ranch hands, Tom, Billy, and Carter, stood by Thunder's corral, flashlights swinging, their faces hard and set. "He broke Jake's ribs. Could have been worse," Tom hissed. "Should have put him down months ago," Carter muttered. Billy spat in the dirt. "Let's teach him a lesson. See how wild he is after this." Harper's blood ran cold. One man pulled a coiled rope from his belt. Another held a long wooden pole. They moved quietly but with intent, slipping through the shadows toward the trembling horse. Thunder stood rigid at the far end of his pen, head low, eyes flickering between the men. His muscles tensed, chest heaving. He sensed the danger, but he was trapped. Nowhere to run, no way out. Harper's heart pounded. She could feel her hands shaking, her mind racing with fear. What could she do? These were grown men, angry, armed. But something stronger than fear rose up inside her. She couldn't let them hurt Thunder. Not like this. She jumped out from her hiding place, shouting with a voice bigger than her body, "Stop! Leave him alone!" The men froze, turning their flashlights on her, beams harsh and blinding. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound the frantic breathing of the horse and Harper herself. Tom sneered, "Go home, Harper. This isn't for little girls." She shook her head, planting her boots in the mud, refusing to budge. "You can't hurt him. He's scared." "You're just making it worse," Billy scoffed. "We're trying to keep everyone safe. That horse is a menace." "No," Harper said, her voice trembling but loud. "You're just angry because he's not afraid of you. He needs help, not punishment." Tom's jaw clenched. He took a step toward her, fists tightening on the rope. "Get out of the way." She stood her ground, arms out, blocking their path. Thunder, sensing her presence, pressed closer to the fence, eyes wide, nostrils flaring. The men hesitated, unsure what to do with this wild, stubborn kid in their way. Suddenly, strong hands grabbed Harper's shoulders and yanked her backward. She nearly fell, spinning to see her brother Luke, eyes blazing with anger and fear. "Are you crazy? You could get hurt," he barked, dragging her away from the corral. Harper fought to twist free, but Luke's grip was iron. "Let me go. They'll hurt him." "Harper, stop," he snapped, voice cracking with tension. "You're risking everything for a lost cause. That horse isn't worth your life." The ranch manager, Mr. Donnelly, appeared, drawn by the commotion. He took in the scene: angry men, a trembling horse, Harper and Luke struggling. His eyes narrowed. "What's going on out here?" Tom pointed at Harper, his face twisted. "She's getting in the way, trying to stop us from handling that monster." Mr. Donnelly's gaze hardened as he turned to Harper. "This isn't your fight, kid. You want to get yourself killed? If you can't follow the rules, maybe you don't belong on this ranch anymore." The words hit Harper like a slap. Her world spun. The ranch was her home, her father's legacy, her safe place, her everything. To be banned was unthinkable. She felt Luke's grip soften, heard the anger and worry in his voice, saw the disappointment in Donnelly's eyes, and the hatred in the hands. But she also saw Thunder, shaking, watching her with a desperate hope she couldn't ignore. Luke pulled her away, muttering curses, dragging her back toward the house. Harper stumbled, swallowing tears, head hanging. She felt the eyes of the ranch hands burning into her back, heard Donnelly's threats echo long after the men had left. That night, Harper sat on the porch, shivering under the stars. She should have been scared. She'd almost lost everything, but she couldn't regret it. She thought of Thunder's eyes, the way he pressed close when she spoke, the trust in his gaze. Later, when the ranch had gone quiet, Harper slipped away again. She crept back to Thunder's pen, whispering softly so only he could hear, "You're not alone. I promise I'm not giving up on you." Thunder flicked an ear toward her, nickering quietly, a small sound in the darkness. Harper leaned against the fence, tears slipping down her cheeks, heart aching with hope and fear. Behind her, Luke watched from the porch, arms crossed. He wanted to protect his sister, but he didn't understand her stubbornness, her faith in lost causes. Still, something about her courage stirred something deep inside him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. In the cold dark of that ranch night, as fear and hope mingled under the stars, the storm that raged inside Thunder found a match in Harper's unbreakable spirit. Neither of them knew what would come next, but both, in their own way, refused to give in. Mornings on the Easton Ranch were cold and still, the world painted in pale blue before the sun crested the hills. The land woke slowly, dew shimmering on the grass, cattle shifting in the distance, the distant sound of a rooster welcoming the day. Most folks dreaded mornings after a night full of trouble, but for Harper, those first light hours became a secret refuge. The events of the night before still echoed in every step. Harper's confrontation with the ranch hands, the manager's threats, her brother's anger, all of it replayed in her mind as she crept down the porch steps, boots silent against the old wood. The house was quiet, her mom still asleep, and Luke's bedroom door shut tight. She paused at the threshold, listening, before slipping out into the brisk morning. She clutched 2 apples in her hands, their skin cool and smooth. A small notebook was tucked into the pocket of her worn jacket. Harper didn't know if her plan would work. She only knew she had to try. Thunder's life depended on it, and maybe in a way, so did hers. The path to the corral was muddy, marked by deep tracks from last night's chaos. Harper took slow, careful steps, her breath curling in the dawn air. When she reached Thunder's pen, she stopped. For a moment, she just watched. Thunder stood at the far side of the enclosure, head down, flanks rising and falling with each deep breath. His coat looked even darker in the gray morning light. The injuries from the night before were visible, a scratch along his side, a patch of dried blood on his leg. But he didn't look defeated. He looked watchful, wary. Harper knelt just outside the fence, careful not to move too quickly. "Morning, Thunder," she whispered, her voice soft as a breeze. She reached into her pocket and set 1 apple on the ground just inside the fence. "I brought breakfast, if you want it." Thunder flicked his ears but didn't move. Harper sat cross-legged, pulling her notebook out. She began to read aloud, picking a silly story she'd written months ago about a mouse who learned to fly. Her words floated through the still air, gentle and even, as she tried to ignore the biting cold. For a long while, nothing happened. The sun rose higher. Harper finished her story and started another. She spoke about school, about how she missed her dad, about how everyone was scared of Thunder, but she wasn't. Not really. Maybe a little, but not enough to stay away. Other ranch hands passed by, some with curious looks, others shaking their heads. Billy, still annoyed from the night before, muttered to Carter, "That girl's wasting her time." Carter just shrugged. "Let her try. If nothing else, she'll learn horses aren't puppies." Harper ignored them. She made a promise to herself. She would be patient. She wouldn't push. She would wait. Days passed like that. Harper waking before anyone else, always with apples, sometimes carrots, sometimes just a soft song or a story. Thunder watched her, at first from a distance, then from a little closer. He never took the apple while she was looking, but each time after she left, the apple was gone. Harper started making notes in her journal. Day 2, he watched me the whole time, didn't eat the apple until I left. Day 4, came a little closer today. I think he likes my voice. Day 7, let me sit by the fence. No one yelled at me, felt good. On the 8th morning, as the sky brightened pink and gold, something changed. Harper sat quietly, humming a tune her father used to play on his guitar. She glanced up and saw Thunder standing much closer than usual, his breath steaming in the cold air. Harper's heart thudded. She didn't move. She held out her hand, palm up, an apple resting on her open palm. Thunder snorted, pawed the ground, and slowly, carefully, stepped forward. His nostrils flared, taking in her scent. For a moment, time stopped. Thunder's velvety nose brushed her fingers. He took the apple, teeth crunching, eyes locked with hers. Harper felt a thrill rush through her. Joy, relief, awe. "You did it," she whispered. "You're not so scary after all." From behind the barn, a couple of ranch hands peeked around the corner, their usual morning gossip forgotten. Billy folded his arms. Well, I'll be damned. That horse just let her touch him. Carter grunted. Beginner's luck. Won't last. But Harper didn't care what they thought. For the first time since Thunder arrived, she felt real hope. She stayed a little longer that morning, just sitting, letting Thunder get used to her presence. When he finished the apple, he nuzzled her jacket, searching for more. Harper grinned. She reached out, letting her hand rest on his mane, feeling the warmth of his skin, the steady beat of his life. Thunder didn't flinch. He stood still, trusting. When Harper finally headed back to the house, the sun was up and the ranch was fully awake. She felt lighter, every step filled with a sense of purpose. Luke spotted her on the way in, brow furrowed, but he didn't scold her this time. He just watched, quiet and thoughtful. Inside, Harper wrote in her journal, "Thunder let me touch him today. I think he trusts me. Maybe I can save him. Maybe I can save both of us." The world was still full of problems. Thunder was still in danger. The ranch hands were still skeptical, and Mr. Donnelly hadn't changed his mind. But in the soft hush of morning, Harper and Thunder had made a promise to each other. A promise that maybe, just maybe, would change everything. Every morning, before the sun fully lit the fields, Harper became a quiet fixture at the edge of Thunder's world. Each visit, each word, each gentle gesture was like a drop of water against stone, small but persistent, wearing down the walls between them. The days stretched into weeks, spring easing into early summer, the ranch's routine carrying on with a sense of cautious curiosity. Thunder had changed. At first he'd flinch at every sound, muscles tensed to run or fight. But Harper noticed the small signs, the way his ears flicked forward now when she arrived, instead of flattening back in fear. How he sometimes nickered softly as she sang a broken tune, off-key and earnest, or read from her journal, the pages dog-eared and covered in messy handwriting. Harper tried everything. Sometimes she spoke about her life. Other times she listened to the silence. She realized Thunder seemed to like the quiet best, so she'd simply sit, legs folded beneath her, tracing patterns in the dust. Sometimes she'd hold out her hand, palm up, and wait. Most days, Thunder stayed just out of reach, but he no longer looked ready to bolt. One evening, after chores, Luke paused outside Harper's room, watching her scribble in her notebook. "You still writing about that horse?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Harper didn't look up. "It helps. I write about what he does, what I feel, stuff I can't say out loud." Luke hesitated. "You're spending a lot of time out there." Harper shrugged. "Thunder listens. Sometimes that's all you need, right?" Luke leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "He's a wild animal. He could still hurt you." She finally looked up, her gaze steady. "People get scared when they're hurt too. Doesn't mean they're bad." Luke didn't have an answer for that. He just watched as Harper tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear and went back to writing. The next morning, Harper sat by the corral, a warm breeze tugging at her braid. She hummed, not really thinking, just feeling the sun on her face. Thunder moved closer, nostrils twitching. Harper barely breathed. She could feel his warmth, smell the earth and grass tangled in his coat. Suddenly, Thunder pressed his nose against her shoulder. Harper froze, not daring to move. She felt his breath, warm, steady, almost reassuring. Slowly, she reached up and stroked his mane, her fingers trembling. Thunder stood still, eyes half closed, lost in the simple comfort of trust. "You're not so scary," Harper murmured, her voice catching. "You're just lonely, huh?" That afternoon, Luke trailed behind the barn, pretending to check the water trough. He watched as Thunder nudged Harper's pockets for apples, her laughter ringing out, light and real. Something shifted in him. He remembered a time, before their dad got sick, when Harper would ride piggyback on his shoulders, giggling, unafraid of the world. Back then, he'd promised to protect her from everything. Now, he wondered if she was the one protecting him. From grief, from giving up. Harper's mother noticed the change too. She saw Harper's eyes brighter, her step lighter. The girl who once ate dinner in silence now talked about horses and the quiet magic of patience. Sometimes Harper would let her mother read the journal entries, sharing the slow progress and little victories. In those words, her mom glimpsed pieces of hope she thought she'd lost forever. On weekends, when chores were done and the sun was fading, Harper sometimes convinced Luke to sit with her by the corral. At first, he'd sit apart, arms folded, gaze wary. But gradually, he started to relax, tossing Harper a crooked smile as she told stories about Thunder's bravery and stubbornness. Harper even caught him talking to Thunder once, voice low and awkward. Thunder listened, ears pricked, as if he understood. One night, after a long day of mending fences, Harper wrote in her journal by lamplight. "Today Thunder let me braid his mane. He didn't move away. Luke watched and didn't say anything mean. I think things are getting better. For all of us." Thunder's transformation wasn't a miracle. He still startled at loud noises, shied away from sudden movements, and refused to let any ranch hand except Harper get too close. But he was different, softer around the edges, more curious than afraid. When storms rolled over the hills, Thunder no longer panicked. He'd stand by the fence, breathing deep, as Harper whispered soothing words. Some ranch hands took notice. Carter watched one morning, chewing a stalk of grass. "Kid's got a gift," he said to Billy, who grunted in reply. "Maybe the horse ain't hopeless after all." Billy shrugged. "We'll see." By now, Harper and Thunder had developed their own silent language. A look, a gesture, a gentle nudge. She could tell when Thunder was uneasy, when he needed space, or when he wanted her near. It was a fragile thing, this trust, built from hundreds of small moments, never rushed, always respected. As Harper's bond with Thunder grew, so did her confidence outside the corral. She started helping Luke with chores, laughing more, standing up for herself when the other kids teased her at school. She talked about Thunder, not as a problem, but as a friend. At night, she'd share stories with her mom, who listened, smiling softly, the sadness in her eyes fading a little each time. Harper's journal filled with sketches and stories, not just about Thunder, but about herself, her fears, her dreams, her hope that broken things could heal, given enough patience and love. She realized she wasn't as alone as she'd once felt. Thunder needed her, yes, but maybe she needed him even more. One golden evening, as fireflies danced over the grass, Harper sat beside Thunder, her hand resting on his warm neck. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "We made it this far. Who knows what's next?" Thunder lowered his head, nudging her gently, as if to say, "We'll find out together." In those quiet moments, beneath the endless Montana sky, girl and horse found healing not just in each other, but in the promise that tomorrow could be better, that even the wildest storms could pass, leaving room for something new to grow. The world on the ranch kept spinning, but a current of anxiety ran through every day. Thunder's progress with Harper didn't go unnoticed for long. Word spread from hand to hand, from bunkhouse to kitchen, until even the most skeptical among them began to wonder. Could a kid really change a horse everyone else had given up on? The question hung in the air, unanswered. turning in people's minds. Early one Saturday, the air crackled with an unfamiliar sense of importance. Trucks rolled up the long gravel drive, their tires hissing in the morning dew. Men in pressed jeans and crisp hats stood a little straighter. The ranch owner, Mr. Easton himself, had returned from a trip. Everyone knew this wasn't just a social call. Mr. Easton was a tall, weathered man with sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a voice that settled arguments before they started. He shook hands with the ranch manager, Mr. Donnelly, and strode straight to the corral, flanked by a couple of investors and the ranch foreman. Harper watched from the shadow of the feed shed, anxiety clenching her stomach. Donnelly wasted no time. "Thunder's still a problem, sir," he said, tipping his hat. "But there's been some progress. The girl, Harper, she's got the horse calmer than he's ever been. Eats from her hand, lets her brush his mane, but he still don't trust anyone else." The owner surveyed the enclosure, taking in the evidence for himself. Thunder, grazing quietly at the far end, seemed nothing like the savage beast he'd been weeks before, but the old man's face remained unreadable. "Bring her over," he said at last. The foreman motioned to Harper, who nearly jumped out of her skin. She hesitated, brushing dust off her jeans, and forced herself to walk out into the open, aware of all the eyes on her. Her mom stood in the crowd, worried but proud, and Luke hovered at the edge, silent, arms crossed. Mr. Easton looked Harper over with a kind of gentle sternness that reminded her of her own father. "So you're the one they say can calm a storm, huh?" Harper nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just tried to listen. He's not mean, just scared." A silence stretched between them as Mr. Easton studied her face. Then Thunder's. "You know this isn't a petting zoo, right? These horses are working animals. Dangerous if they can't be handled. That horse put a man in the hospital." Harper swallowed, looking down. "Yes, sir. But he's not like that with me. He just needs time." The owner considered this, then turned to Donnelly and the others. "All right, here's how it'll be," he announced, voice carrying across the corral. "One last chance. If the girl can lead that horse calmly around the ring, in front of everyone, he stays. If not, we're done. No exceptions." The words dropped like stones. Harper felt the weight of 100 stares, the expectations and doubts pressing down on her shoulders. Her knees felt weak, but she looked up at Thunder. He stood at the fence, ears pricked, watching her with the same guarded hope she felt inside. Donnelly shook his head. "That's too much, sir. She's just a kid." But Mr. Easton held up a hand. "She's the only one he trusts. If anyone can do it, it's her." Luke pushed through the crowd, coming to stand beside Harper. He looked at her, a mixture of fear and pride in his eyes. "You don't have to do this, Harp. But if you want to, I believe you can." Harper's heart skipped. For so long, Luke had tried to shield her from disappointment, from pain. Now his words lifted her, steadying her trembling hands. "Thanks, Luke," she whispered. The entire ranch gathered, forming a silent ring around the corral. Even the skeptical ranch hands, Billy, Carter, the rest, stood with folded arms, hiding their curiosity behind hard expressions. Harper took a deep breath, wiped her palms on her jeans, and climbed through the fence. Her legs shaking, she approached Thunder slowly, speaking in a low, steady voice. "Hey boy, it's just me. We're okay. I know there's a lot of people, but you're safe, I promise." Thunder snorted, muscles tensing, but didn't back away. Harper reached out, brushing her fingers through his mane. She could feel his heart pounding, steady but fast, like her own. She slipped the lead rope over his neck, her movements gentle, never rushed. "Ready?" she whispered, voice so soft only thunder could hear. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Thunder took a hesitant step forward, following Harper's lead. The crowd held its breath. She walked slow, keeping her words calm, her touch light. Thunder's hooves crunched in the sand, each step more confident than the last. Harper led him in a circle, stopping at intervals, letting him breathe, never forcing him. Thunder glanced at the onlookers, then back at her, as if asking, "Is this okay?" She smiled, giving him a reassuring pat. "You're doing great. I'm right here." Halfway around, someone dropped a shovel, the clatter echoing sharp and loud. Thunder startled, pulling at the rope, but Harper stayed steady, whispering, "Easy, easy. It's just noise. You're safe with me." Slowly, Thunder settled, ears flicking, breath steadying. They finished the circle, Harper leading, Thunder following, the pair moving as one. By the time they reached the starting point, the corral was silent, every doubt, every bit of tension, suspended in the air. Mr. Easton nodded, his face finally softening. "Well, I'll be damned. That's more than most grown men could manage." The crowd erupted in scattered applause. Donnelly shook his head in disbelief, while the ranch hands exchanged glances, some grudgingly impressed, others stunned. Luke rushed in, pulling Harper into a tight hug. "You did it! I knew you could!" Harper's eyes burned with tears. Relief. Joy. Something bigger than either. She looked at Thunder, who stood calm and proud at her side, and felt something inside her settle. For the first time, she truly believed they had a chance, but beneath the cheers and smiles, Harper knew not everyone was convinced. Some of the men still eyed Thunder with suspicion. The future was uncertain. Yet in that moment, surrounded by hope and doubt alike, Harper and Thunder had earned something no one could take away: respect and the chance to fight for another day. By the next morning, news of Harper's challenge spread through the ranch like wildfire. Even those who'd long since written Thunder off couldn't hide their curiosity anymore. The kitchen buzzed with gossip over breakfast, forks clinking on plates, hands waving in disbelief. Harper tried not to listen, but the whispers found her wherever she went. Could a kid really do it? What if Thunder snapped? What would Mr. Easton do if she failed? She barely slept. Her dreams were tangled with images of Thunder running wild, of angry voices, of being shut out forever. Yet when the sun finally crept up, painting the fields with gold, Harper felt a quiet steadiness settle over her. This was it. She couldn't turn back now. The ranch assembled by the main corral as if for a show. Horses in distant paddocks whinnied, sensing the tension in the air. Mr. Easton, sharp-eyed and somber, stood by the gate with Mr. Donnelly and the foreman. Luke lingered just behind Harper, his jaw set but his eyes full of pride. Even her mother stood at the back, hands clenched together, whispering prayers no one else could hear. Harper took a deep breath, her hands cold despite the rising heat. Thunder waited in the center of the pen, dark and alert, mane gleaming. He pawed the ground, his energy coiled like a spring. Harper remembered the first day, how wild he'd looked, how everyone had been afraid. Now, there was something else in his eyes, something like trust. She slipped through the gate, ignoring the whispers, her boots sinking into the sand. Her whole body hummed with nerves. She spoke quietly. "Hey, boy, it's just me. We've got an audience, but I'm right here. Just like we practiced." Thunder flicked his ears toward her, his tail swishing. Harper approached slowly, keeping her voice low and steady. She could feel every gaze fixed on her, on them. The air was heavy, thick with anticipation. She reached Thunder's side and rested her palm gently on his shoulder. His muscles trembled, but didn't jerk away. She showed him the lead rope, letting him sniff it first, then slipped it around his neck with practiced calm. Every movement was deliberate, soft, a wordless promise that she wouldn't force him. "All right, big guy," she whispered. "Let's show them." The corral was silent except for the shuffling of boots and the distant song of a meadowlark. Harper began to walk, one slow step at a time. At first, Thunder stood frozen, watching the people on the fence line. Harper didn't tug. She waited, heart in her throat. Thunder took a step. Just one, but enough. Harper kept walking, not looking back, only glancing over her shoulder to meet his gaze. Their silent language carried them forward. Trust, patience, 1,000 mornings of whispered stories and careful touch. A sudden cough from the crowd made Thunder flinch. His head shot up, nostrils wide, hooves pawing the earth. Harper didn't panic. She kept her hand out, palm facing him, her voice gentle. "It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. You're safe. You always are with me." Thunder's ears swiveled, searching. Harper took another step. Thunder hesitated, then followed, inch by inch. Around the ring they moved, Harper in front, Thunder close behind. She stopped every so often, letting him breathe, talking to him like there was no one else in the world. "See, you're doing great. I knew you could." The men on the fence hardly breathed. Billy's jaw dropped open. Carter muttered, "That's not possible." Halfway through the circle, something changed. Thunder's steps became more confident. He lowered his head, relaxing under Harper's calm. She guided him, step by step, letting the trust between them hold firm. The sun broke through the clouds, lighting the arena with sudden warmth. A hawk shrieked overhead. Thunder's ears flicked up, but this time he didn't spook. He turned to Harper, searching her face. She smiled and patted his neck. "That's it. I'm right here. We're okay." The final test loomed, a full circle, then a stop in front of Mr. Easton. Harper could feel sweat trickling down her back, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The lead rope felt like a lifeline. She took the last steps, Thunder at her side, both moving in perfect rhythm. They reached the starting point and stopped. Harper exhaled, not realizing she'd been holding her breath. Thunder stood still, calm and proud, his body pressed lightly against her shoulder. The silence broke as Mr. Easton strode into the ring, clapping slowly, a rare smile breaking his stern face. "Well, I'll be," he said. "I haven't seen trust like that in a long time." The crowd erupted. Claps, cheers, even a few whoops from the younger hands. Luke ran in and hugged Harper tight. "You did it! You actually did it!" Harper grinned, blinking away tears. She looked at Thunder, who snorted and shook his mane, as if enjoying the attention. For a moment, everything felt possible. Mr. Donnelly wiped his brow, disbelief warring with respect. He turned to Mr. Easton. "Guess I was wrong about that horse, and maybe about the girl, too." Billy and Carter stared at Harper with a new kind of awe, no longer able to dismiss what they'd just seen. Even the most hardened ranch hands muttered words of praise. Harper knelt by Thunder, burying her face in his neck. "Thank you," she whispered. "We did it. I'm so proud of you." Thunder nudged her gently, as if he understood every word. The weight of fear and doubt lifted. For the first time, Harper wasn't just the girl who saw the storm. She was the girl who had walked through it, side by side with the wildest heart on the ranch. As the ranch returned to its routine, people looked at Harper and Thunder with new eyes. They saw not just a wild horse and a stubborn kid, but a partnership built on faith, persistence, and quiet bravery. Some remained skeptical, but no one could deny what had just happened. Harper's test had become a turning point, not only for Thunder, but for everyone watching. That evening, Harper sat on the porch with Luke, the sky painted in pink and orange streaks. He nudged her, smiling. "Proud of you, kid. Dad would be too." Harper rested her head on his shoulder. "We're not done yet. But today, I think we proved something." And out in the field, Thunder lifted his head toward the horizon, waiting for whatever came next. The aftermath of the test hung over the ranch for days. There was a new rhythm in the air, a cautious optimism mingled with a familiar, stubborn skepticism. Some folks looked at Thunder with a fresh sense of awe, but others still eyed him warily, remembering the chaos he'd once unleashed. Harper noticed every glance, every quiet word exchanged at the bunkhouse or over the corral fence. Mr. Easton made good on his word. Thunder would not be put down. Instead, he announced that Harper could continue working with Thunder, under supervision, and that the horse's progress would be closely watched. The decision felt like both a victory and a challenge. Harper knew one mistake could ruin everything. Still, for the first time, hope felt real. Harper found herself the center of attention in a way she'd never been before. At school, classmates who had once ignored her now whispered and pointed, calling her the horse girl, or asking if she could teach their dogs to behave. She blushed, not quite knowing what to do with the attention, but inside she felt proud. She'd fought for something, and someone everyone else had given up on. Life at home shifted too. Harper's mom watched her with a kind of wonder, and even started asking more about the ranch, about Thunder's progress, about Harper's dreams. At dinner, they'd sit together with Luke, laughter coming easier than it had in months. The grief that used to shadow their meals was lighter now, replaced by stories of muddy boots, stubborn horses, and unexpected victories. Luke's transformation was just as surprising. He'd begun joining Harper in the early mornings, standing beside her as she fed Thunder or mucked out stalls. Sometimes he'd lean on the fence, silent but present, his gaze softer than before. He even apologized for doubting her, his words gruff but honest. "I guess I was wrong, Harp. You see things in that horse nobody else does. Maybe I need to learn how to see like that too." Harper grinned at him. "You already do. You just don't know it yet." Not everything was smooth. The other ranch hands still kept their distance from Thunder. Carter watched from the side, arms crossed, always the first to step in if anything looked off. Billy, while no longer openly hostile, still shook his head and muttered, "That horse is a ticking time bomb. Just wait." There were days when Thunder would spook at a sudden noise or kick at the fence when strangers came close, fueling the doubters' suspicions. But Harper didn't back down. She met every challenge with patience and stubborn hope. She spent hours with Thunder, brushing his coat, teaching him to respond to soft words and gentle touches, slowly inviting Luke to try as well. At first, Thunder eyed Luke with suspicion, but Harper guided them, showing her brother how to move slowly, to let Thunder come to him rather than forcing trust. One morning, as the mist rolled off the fields, Luke finally managed to brush Thunder's mane without the horse shying away. Harper whooped in delight, hugging her brother so hard he pretended to protest, but she could see the pride shining in his eyes. Even Carter cracked a reluctant smile. "Guess miracles do happen," he muttered, not quite meeting Harper's gaze. Mr. Easton continued to visit, always with a critical eye but a growing sense of respect. He called Harper over one afternoon, his voice quiet but firm. You're doing something good here, kid. Keep it up. But remember, trust is earned every day. Don't let your guard down. Harper nodded. I won't, I promise. Some days progress felt slow. There were setbacks, a broken latch on the pen, a sudden thunderstorm that sent Thunder into a panic, an afternoon when he refused to let anyone near him, not even Harper. On those days, the doubt crept back in. The ranch hands would grumble, Mr. Donnelly would cast worried glances, and Harper would lie awake, heart pounding with worry that it was all slipping away. But then there were the victories, however small. A day when Thunder accepted a new halter. An evening when he let Harper braid ribbons into his mane for fun. A morning when he trotted alongside her without fear. Harper recorded every moment in her journal, her handwriting growing steadier with each entry. Gradually, the community began to soften too. A few of the younger ranch hands asked Harper if they could help. Could they feed Thunder? Could they watch her work? Could they learn, too? She always said yes, teaching them the same patience she'd shown Thunder. The corral, once a place of dread, became a classroom of sorts, where small lessons in trust were passed from hand to hand. At home, Harper felt herself changing. She was braver in school, more willing to speak up, less afraid of being different. She talked about her dreams with her mom and Luke, dreams of helping more horses, maybe even teaching other kids what she'd learned. Her confidence, hard-earned and fragile, grew a little stronger each day. One evening, after a long, dusty day, Luke joined Harper at the fence. They watched Thunder graze, the sky fading to indigo overhead. Luke nudged her gently. You did all this, Harp. Don't ever forget it. Harper smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. We did it. All of us. Inside the house, Harper's mom watched the two siblings together, a quiet joy settling in her heart. Grief still lingered in the corners, but hope had claimed its own place at the table. For Thunder, life was still uncertain. Some hands would always be wary, but with Harper by his side, he faced each new day with a little less fear and a little more trust. And for the first time, both girl and horse began to believe that maybe, just maybe, second chances really could last. Summer storms on the Easton Ranch had a way of sneaking up. One moment the sky was cloudless. The next it was dark as dusk at noon, the air heavy with the scent of rain. That afternoon, Harper finished her chores under a sky bruised purple, thunder muttering in the distance. She glanced up, wiping sweat from her brow, a chill running down her spine that had nothing to do with the weather. Most of the ranch crew was busy securing equipment and getting the horses inside. Mr. Donnelly barked orders, "Tie everything down. Get the foals to higher ground." Harper's mother called out from the porch, worry etched into her face. "Harper, don't stay out too long." Lightning flashed, and the far hills disappeared behind a veil of rain. But Harper's mind wasn't on the storm. Luke and a few other kids from neighboring ranches had gone down to the riverbank to skip rocks and catch crawfish before the rain hit. Harper had planned to join them, but Thunder's anxious pacing in his stall had kept her behind. She checked on him, whispering, "It's okay. Just a little Thunder," her own nerves humming with unease. As the first drops began to fall, a cry echoed up from the river. Harper spun, heart in her throat. The voice was faint, swallowed by the wind, but she recognized it. Luke. Without thinking, she sprinted toward the river, mud sucking at her boots, rain blurring her vision. As she crested the last hill, she saw them. Luke and 3 other kids, stranded on a narrow spit of land. The river swollen and wild, brown water rushing fast, licking at their sneakers. The path they'd taken was gone, turned to a torrent by flash flood. Branches and debris hurtled by in the current. One boy slipped and barely caught himself on a root, the panic on his face unmistakable. "Help!" Luke shouted, trying to sound brave, but Harper could hear the fear in his voice. Harper's mind raced. The ranch hands were too far away. The rope in the truck wouldn't reach. She could run back for help, but by the time anyone arrived, the river could swallow them all. Her gaze darted up the hill to the barn, where Thunder stood, pawing at his stall door, eyes fixed on Harper, nostrils flaring at the storm. No other horse on the ranch could handle that current. But Thunder was strong, fearless, at least with her. A crazy idea bloomed in Harper's mind, wild and desperate. But it was all she had. She bolted to the barn, lungs burning, thunder crashing overhead. The ranch hands yelled after her, but she didn't stop. She threw open Thunder's stall, grabbing his halter with shaking hands. "We need to help them," she whispered, voice tight. "I know you're scared, but I need you, please." Thunder tossed his head, nervous, but Harper's touch steadied him. She led him outside, straight into the pounding rain. The world was a blur, wind, water, shouts. She climbed onto Thunder's bare back, her jeans instantly soaked, arms wrapped tight around his neck. They charged down the slope, mud flying. The river roared louder, angry and wild, water churning with debris. Harper pointed, shouting, "There! That's where they are!" Thunder hesitated at the edge, hooves sinking in the wet ground. Harper could feel his fear, the trembling muscles, the flared nostrils, but she stroked his neck, her voice a lifeline. "It's just water. We can do this. I trust you." With a great leap, Thunder plunged into the flood. The current slammed against them, cold and vicious. Harper clung to his mane, her heart hammering, rain stinging her eyes. For a terrifying moment, it felt like they'd be swept away, horse and rider both. But Thunder's legs churned, powerful and steady. Each step forward was a battle. The water rose to Harper's knees, then to her waist, but Thunder kept moving, finding his footing where no other horse dared. The stranded kids screamed encouragement, their faces pale and desperate. Harper shouted back, "Hang on! We're coming!" She reached Luke first, grabbing his hand, hauling him up behind her. Thunder grunted, shifting to balance the extra weight. The river pressed harder, but Harper's voice cut through the panic. "Just a little more. You've got this." One by one, Thunder carried the children to safety. Harper reached for each of them, her arms aching, soaked to the bone, her voice hoarse from shouting over the storm. Every crossing was a gamble. Driftwood spun past. The riverbed shifted under Thunder's hooves, but he never faltered. Harper felt his trust in her and poured all her courage into him. The last child, a girl named Maya, slipped as Thunder reached the far bank. Harper dove forward, fingers locking around the girl's wrist, hauling her up just as the current snatched at her sneakers. Thunder scrambled up the muddy slope, collapsing in the grass, sides heaving. Harper slid off, clutching Mia, gasping for breath. Luke hugged her, trembling. "You saved us. I can't believe you." Behind them, ranch hands appeared, breathless and wide-eyed. Mr. Donnelly stared at Harper and Thunder, speechless for the first time anyone could remember. How'd you—" Harper just shook her head, tears mixing with rain. "Thunder did it. He's not just a horse. He's family." Thunder nickered softly, pressing his wet nose to Harper's arm, as if reminding her he was still there. The other kids hugged her, soaking and shivering, but alive. Thunder stood over them all, his black coat streaming, eyes bright and proud. Word of the rescue swept through the ranch. By nightfall, even the most skeptical hands called Thunder a hero, their suspicions melting into respect. Harper's mom hugged her so tight she could hardly breathe. Luke looked at his sister with newfound awe, the bond between them forged by fire and flood. That night, Harper sat beside Thunder, running her fingers through his mane as he grazed in the rain-washed grass. She whispered, "We did it. You're my miracle." In the darkness, under the vast Montana sky, everyone on the ranch knew. After this day, nothing would ever be the same. The storm and the flood became legend almost overnight. In the days that followed, word of Thunder's courage and Harper's bravery spread far beyond the Easton Ranch. Neighbors drove in from miles around, eager to hear the story for themselves, shaking their heads in disbelief at the girl and her wild horse who'd saved a group of children from the raging river. For a while, Harper felt like she was walking through someone else's dream, faces lighting up when she walked by, strangers reaching out to shake her hand, even the hardest ranch hands tipping their hats in genuine respect. The ranch, too, began to shift. Mr. Easton called a meeting the following week, gathering everyone, hands, families, even the neighboring ranchers, under the old cottonwood tree by the barn. The air buzzed with expectation. For years, the ranch had followed the same rules. Broken horses got no second chances. Troubled kids were meant to toughen up or get left behind. But Harper and Thunder had changed something fundamental, something nobody could quite name. Mr. Easton's voice rang out, clear and certain. "I've watched this girl and this horse do something none of us believed possible. They proved that patience and heart can change even the most stubborn souls. So from today on, this ranch is going to do things different. We're starting a new program, one that pairs our toughest horses with patient, willing young trainers. Anyone who wants to learn, anyone who wants to try, will have a place here. If a horse and a girl can change each other, maybe we can all change a little too." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Some people smiled, others looked wary. Carter scratched his head, muttering, "Well, I'll be damned." Billy, who'd always doubted Thunder, finally stepped forward, offering Harper an awkward handshake. "Guess I was wrong. He's a good horse. You're a good kid." That first week, a few other kids joined Harper in the mornings. Some were shy, others brimming with bravado, but all curious. Harper showed them the basics: how to approach a horse quietly, how to read body language, how patience was stronger than any rope or bridle. Thunder watched, calm and steady, letting the children stroke his nose or braid his mane. He'd become a symbol of second chances, a reminder that fear could become trust, that even the wildest storms could pass. Luke, too, found his place in this new beginning. He started keeping his own journal, sketching the horses and writing about the ranch, sometimes sitting side by side with Harper in the fading light. He became Harper's right hand, offering advice to the younger kids, teaching them what he'd learned from watching his sister and Thunder. Their bond, once stretched thin by loss and doubt, was now stronger than ever. At home, Harper's mom opened up in ways she hadn't since their father died. She began volunteering at the ranch, baking for the hands and helping out with the kids. Some evenings, the three of them would sit together on the porch, Harper reading from her journal, her mom sharing stories from her own childhood, Luke drawing pictures of Thunder and the other horses. Laughter came easier, grief no longer the centerpiece at the dinner table. The ranch itself changed too. Fences were mended, old barns given new coats of paint. The air was lighter, charged with hope. There were setbacks, of course. Some horses resisted. Some kids grew frustrated. A few hands still grumbled that things were changing too fast. But every small victory became a celebration. The first time a stubborn mare let a shy boy brush her mane. The day Billy smiled as he watched Thunder gallop across the pasture, free and unafraid. The laughter echoing from the new training ring as kids and horses learned together. Thunder became more than a horse. He was a partner, a mentor, and for many, a friend. Harper made a habit of journaling every evening, sitting at Thunder's side under the endless Montana sky. She wrote about their struggles, their triumphs, and the small, everyday miracles that had once seemed impossible. Sometimes Luke would join her, adding his sketches and thoughts to the growing collection. As summer wore on, more children from neighboring ranches joined the program. Harper and Luke became unofficial mentors, teaching the newcomers not just about horses, but about kindness, patience, and the importance of believing in something, even when everyone else said it was hopeless. The ranch hands, once skeptical, began to support the project, offering advice, fixing broken gear, and sharing their own stories of failure and redemption. One evening, after a long golden day, Harper sat on the pasture fence, legs dangling, Thunder grazing nearby. Luke leaned beside her, sketchbook in hand. "Did you ever think things would turn out like this?" he asked, voice quiet. Harper shook her head, smiling softly. "Not in a million years. I just wanted to save Thunder. I didn't know he'd save us too." Luke nudged her. "You gave everyone a second chance, Harp. Not just the horses." The wind rustled the grass, warm and gentle. The sky overhead was painted in streaks of pink and gold, and for a moment, everything felt possible. As darkness fell, Harper closed her journal and hugged Thunder's neck, her heart full. The ranch had become more than just a home for her. It was proof that change was possible, that hope could survive even the wildest storm, and that sometimes the smallest voice could spark the greatest change. Some lessons take years to reveal their meaning. As summer faded into crisp autumn, golden leaves swirling over the pastures and horses' coats growing thick, Harper felt herself changing along with the season. Life on the Easton Ranch had always carried a steady pulse. Morning chores, shifting weather, the rhythm of boots in dirt. But now there was a new undercurrent. The belief that things and people could truly change. Thunder had become the ranch's legend, but also something quieter and more important. A friend, a teacher, and for Harper, a reflection of herself. She spent more time in the pasture than anywhere else, walking with Thunder as dawn painted the grass silver, sometimes sitting in the hush before daylight, simply breathing together. She watched the way Thunder's scars faded, the way his muscles relaxed when she was near, and how he now approached every child with curiosity instead of fear. Harper's journal was full of observations, about Thunder, about the other horses, about the kids who came to learn. But as the pages filled, her words shifted from careful records to honest reflections. "I used to think being brave meant not being afraid," she wrote one chilly morning, shivering beneath her jacket. "But Thunder showed me that it's okay to be scared. What matters is what you do anyway, even when your hands are shaking." The new program flourished. Children from all over the valley came to the ranch. Some quiet, some bursting with energy, all a little unsure of themselves. Harper and Luke, now the unofficial leaders, taught them how to approach the horses, how to move slowly, to watch for flicking ears and shifting eyes. Harper saw pieces of herself in every kid who hesitated at the gate, in every hand that trembled as it reached for a mane. She offered the same words she'd whispered to Thunder. "It's okay to be scared. You're not alone." Some days brought setbacks. A skittish horse, a kid in tears, a fence knocked loose by a sudden wind. There were arguments and doubts, moments when Harper wondered if it was all too much. But every time she remembered that first morning with Thunder, the chaos and the fear, and how they'd found each other in the storm. "Some storms," she would write, "aren't just in the sky. Some are inside us. But that doesn't mean you run away." One afternoon, Mr. Easton gathered everyone by the pasture fence. The children, ranch hands, and parents stood in a loose circle, the sun warm on their faces. Mr. Easton cleared his throat, his voice carrying over the wind. "I want to thank each of you, especially Harper, for reminding us what matters most. This ranch was built on hard work and tougher rules, but sometimes the hardest thing is to offer understanding instead of judgment. Thunder's story is all of ours now, a reminder that the most broken among us are often the ones who need compassion the most." Harper stood beside Thunder, her hand resting on his neck. She felt the truth of those words echo in her chest. For years, she'd tried to make herself small, to hide her feelings and her fears. Now she stood tall, letting herself be seen. After the meeting, Harper sat on the porch with her mother, watching dusk creep over the hills. "Do you miss Dad more or less these days?" Harper asked softly, her gaze fixed on the darkening sky. Her mother wrapped an arm around her. "Both, I think. But I see him in you, Harp. The way you never gave up. The way you listened. He'd be proud of the person you're becoming." Harper leaned into her mother's embrace, a comfortable silence settling between them. The grief was still there, but it no longer hurt the same way. It had softened, woven into the story of their family, their ranch, and the wild black horse that changed everything. That weekend, Harper and Thunder led a group of children across the open pasture, Luke trotting beside them, the other horses and kids trailing behind. The air was bright with laughter, the grass whispering underfoot. As they reached the far fence, Harper turned in the saddle, her voice carrying clear and bright. "It's not about never being afraid. It's about being brave enough to stand up, for yourself, for someone else, even when it's hard. That's what Thunder taught me." The children nodded, some shy, some grinning wide, all changed in small ways by their time on the ranch. As they rode back, Harper felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. She knew there would always be storms, losses, fears, hard days, but she also knew she could face them, not because she was never scared, but because she understood what it meant to keep trying. That night, Harper wrote her final entry of the season in her journal. "True courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act with compassion and hope, even when you're trembling inside. Sometimes the most broken among us, horse or human, need someone to believe in them. That's how you change the world, one second chance at a time." As the stars blinked awake over the Montana sky, Harper stood in the paddock with Thunder, watching the lights, feeling the cool air brush her face. She knew she'd never forget what they'd been through together. She knew, too, that she wasn't the only one changed by the storm. Her story, and Thunder's, belonged to everyone now. A reminder that bravery lives in the quietest moments, that hope grows even after the wildest night, and that giving a second chance is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. The next morning, as the sun rose gold and bright, Harper's voice rang out across the ranch, inviting everyone, young and old, to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, to find courage even when afraid, and to believe, always, in second chances.